Hello, everybody. I don't know, we've got people watching from different parts of the world, and it might be morning, afternoon, or evening where you are. You're welcome to Ubuntu, a global dialogue with Africa. And this is something we do every Saturday. And I would encourage, if you're new here, please tune in every Saturday to be inspired and contribute to mind-shifting conversations to awaken the sleeping giant, Africa. Okay, so you're mostly welcome, and I would encourage you to check out what we do on various platforms and social media. You can follow us at Osiri Africa. Before we start, I want to make welcome Sifo the Yogi to open us with some meditation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marachi. A very good morning, a very good afternoon, and a very good evening to everyone. My name is Chigozie and I am based in South Africa, Cape Town. And it's such a great honor to be here this afternoon. And it's a great honor to be joining each and every weekend to open up in meditation. So I'm going to invite each and every one of you just to settle right in. If you want to gently close your eyes, and just really allow yourself to be fully present in this moment, to be fully present for the next hour. And before I begin the meditation, I'd invite you to set an intention for yourself for the next hour. What would you like to receive from this session? And I'm going to invite you, as you connect with that intention, just to connect with your breath. So let's take a nice, slow, deep breath in. And just greet your breath today. Just appreciate the presence of your breath within your body. And gently release your breath. And let's do that 2 more times. So taking another beautiful, big breath in. Acknowledging the presence of your breath within the body, acknowledging the presence of life energy within your body. And one last breath in. And you could either choose to keep your eyes closed. Today, I'm going to be reading a prayer for Africa. So let's take some time and just really listen to this powerful prayer. Dear God, for the love of Africa, for the love of Ubuntu, hear our prayer. Africa is the cradle of your creation. Therefore, grant us patience to nurture growth and goodness in this great land. Africa is the rainbow of your heavens. Therefore, grant us tolerance to celebrate the difference and diversity across this wide continent. Africa is the drumbeat of your heart. Therefore, grant us the courage to offer comfort and compassion in the face of her people's trials. To the prisons of poverty in Africa, let us bring the liberation of choice. And to the deserts of her suffering, let us bring cool streams of relief. To the tunnels of deception in Africa, let us bring lamps of truth. And to the jungles of her conflict, let us bring flags of reconciliation. To the coves of despair in Africa, let us bring voices of hope. And to the swamps of her fear, let us bring whispers of comfort. Wherever Africa teaches her children, share the lessons of our fading past. And wherever she dreams of tomorrow, set our feet on the path of progress. Wherever Africa raises her leaders, judge our support by the voice of our democracy. And where she breathes in community, join our breath with inspiration. Wherever Africa cherishes her wilderness, mark our celebration of nature's bounty. And where she cares for her people, watch our spirit swell with love. For the love of Africa, hear our prayer, dear God. Amaku. Let's breathe in that love for Africa. Taking a nice big breath in. And as you release that breath, let's spread the love of Africa all around us. Thank you very much, everyone. I wish you a beautiful dialogue, all in the name of Africa, all in the name of Ubuntu. Tamaku, Amandla. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, amazing. Thank you, Sifo. And I want to welcome, because some people have just joined us. I just want to welcome everyone who is joining us for the Ubuntu Global Dialogue today. Today we are taking it on and, just to have conversation with those who have just completed the Creative Writing Masterclass with Professor Obioma Chigozie. And today we have Madam Jacqui Alexander, and we have Manasseh, Azure, Awuni. I hope I pronounced that right. So we have both of them today, and hopefully we'll have some others joining us as we carry along, and my co-host, Professor Kalu Osiri, today. So let's get to know these wonderful people. I'll start with Madam Jacqui Alexander. Please, could you introduce yourself? We want to get to know you. And if possible, could you tell us something interesting that most people don't know about?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm very, very happy to be part of this process. Part of a journey, I feel it is actually, in a real way. So I have been teaching, I think, for most of my life in some way, shape, or form. Most recently in the academy, both in the US and in Canada. My training is as a sociologist, and then after I spent a lot of time really learning more about African metaphysics, and which is really linked to the project that I'm doing right now. I've been really involved also in a lot of social justice movements across a broad spectrum of issues, and that has been very, very important to me. I think it forges a very strong link with spiritual questions, actually. So yeah, we can get into that a bit later on. I have a daughter, 2 grandchildren, a son-in-law, and I'm here actually in Atlanta with my brother, kind of reuniting after this long 1.5 years of COVID. So I'm just happy, really, right now. Yeah, and happy about this initiative that you all have instituted.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Madam Jacqui. It's nice to have you.
Thank you.
Mr. Awuni, please, could we get to know you and possibly tell us something interesting about you?
I would want to join my senior colleague and participant in this program to say that it was really, really helpful. And for me in particular, I think the opportunity to connect with Professor Chigozie has been a dream come true. And I think I have enjoyed or benefited more than any other person in this program. And the reason is very simple. If you look at my email address, it is azuri@gmail.com. That Achebe comes from a certain Chinua Achebe. And if we were to worship human beings, I think he was one person I could easily worship. And growing up in Ghana, there are two African countries that I had a higher perception about than my own country. And these countries are Nigeria and South Africa. And that came across for Nigeria because of the writers, and for South Africa, the influence of Mandela. I grew up in a very small community in Ghana called Kitikrachi, but I wasn't born there. I was born in the northern part of the country. And just like Nigeria, northern Ghana is the poorest. So my father was a peasant farmer. After he lost a job as a laborer at a meat factory. And then around the 1989, 1990, the rainfall pattern up north is very poor. So crops didn't do well. There was hardship. So he went to another part of the country called Volta region to work as a farm laborer. And so in the process, he got a job as a night watchman in a hospital. And so we joined him in that small community called Kitikrachi. And he earned next to nothing. So we had to farm and do other jobs to support the upkeep of the family. And he decided to compound it by having too many children, 11 children, and I'm number 2. So life became very tough. And when I got to the primary school, primary 6, I was about 12 years, between 12 and 13 years at the time. I needed a Christian name. So I was looking through a certain booklet titled Christian Names and Their Meanings. And I came across the name Manasseh, which meant something like, God has made me forget the suffering in my father's house. So I looked at the hardship I had gone through in my hometown, where waking up sometimes, I didn't know where the next meal would come from. Compared it with life in Karachi, and things were not good enough, but it was far better. So I took the name Manasseh upon myself because I felt the meaning reflected the hardship I had gone through earlier in life. And also, even though things weren't better, it was much okay. 2 things happened in my life that led me to where I am today. I wanted to go to a bigger and better senior high school, but my father didn't have money to take me out of the district. So I was forced to go to school there. I wept when I didn't get that opportunity, but it turned out to be for my good. I joined a drama club and started writing plays for the drama group. We won competitions. I wrote a number of essay competitions and also won. Initially, I'd gone to do business, accounting in secondary school because I wanted to be a bank manager. And the motivation was that there was the commercial bank branch manager in the town who had his own private car. He was in Thai, so he was a symbol of success to a lot of us. Then when I completed, I applied to the University of Cape Coast to do BCom. That's Bachelor's of Commerce. It was one of the most competitive courses. I was refused admission, so I was waiting to reapply the following day when someone met me. He had followed some of my writings and essays and said, "Oh, you write so well. Why don't you go and do journalism?" So I decided to apply to the Ghana Institute of Journalism in 2006 and got admission to do a 4-year program. And that failure to get admission to the University of Cape Coast turned out to be good because I felt and still feel journalism has been my calling. And there was a section of the form that said, "Why do you want to come to Ghana Institute of Journalism, and my response was that I want to be a writer. So I'm coming here to sharpen my writing skills. So when I read Professor Chigozie's books last year, I followed up and sent him a mail for a possible mentorship program, but his hands were full. So he politely turned down the offer. And not long afterwards, I got this great opportunity to apply. And I can tell you that even before this program came up, I was looking for an opportunity to spend even some 30 minutes with Professor Chigozie. So if I say I may have benefited more than everyone else, this is what it really means. I have done about 10 years in journalism in this country. And by the grace of God, I have made some modest impact. My stories have led to the imprisonment of 3 individuals. 2 of them are still in jail. The stories I have done have led to the passage of laws by Parliament. I can tell you hundreds of millions of dollars have been saved through contracts that have been canceled. The latest was 2017. That single story led to the cancellation of a fraudulent contract worth $74 million. Last year, the head of Ghana's procurement authority was removed and banned from holding public office for, I think, the next 5 years. And he's been investigated for prosecution because of an investigation I did titled Contracts for Sale. So things have been a bit rough because I've faced death threats on 2 occasions. I've had to get out of the country with my family. The state has provided me with a police escort because of death threats. So things have not been very rosy, but I can say it has been fulfilling because I've contributed to the building of this country. Because I believe without corruption and some of these terrible governance we have in Africa, we as well could compete with the rest of the world. So basically, this is what I have done. And my trophy box is full with a number of awards, including Ghana's Best Journalist a year after I left the journalism school. And then 2018 and 2020, there is West Africa Media Excellence Award, which often has keen competition from Ghana and Nigeria. And I've won the overall best twice in the first 4 years of the competition. So this is basically me. Thank you.
Wow, amazing. I mean, the story you've just shared in less than, I'd say, 4 minutes, it's quite inspirational. And having to hear the trajectory of your journey, starting from when you were born up till now, I mean, it's something that is kind of very inspirational. That's the only way I can capture it. But keep going, Manasseh. I know that it's challenging out there, and you've just spoken of some of them, and I'm sure we're going to be sharing a whole lot more as we carry on with the conversation. Thank you for sharing. Now, I would ask Madam Jacqui, how did you come to know, and by the way, Professor Obioma is one of our elders at Osiri University. So how did you come to know about his work? How did you come to know about him? And how did you come to know about this initiative?
Well, it's interesting, Manasseh's comment on how he came to meet Professor Chigozie, because, you know, serendipity is this word that folks use that is not serendipity at all. It's, you know, the planning happens in another sphere and we participate in it. So I have been doing this long-standing project, writing the life of this woman who was snatched from the Congo in the late 1700s and brought to Trinidad via Martinique. I was born and grew up in Trinidad. She lived on this plantation about 5 miles from where I grew up during high school. But, you know, with colonial education, you never know about the history of the place where you are. So we learned British history, Irish history, nothing about Caribbean history, especially if you were tracked in the SMART group. You knew even less about who you are, which is quite a paradox, isn't it? In any event, I started more than about 20 years ago, really trying to track her story. There were only 2 paragraphs in the history books that were really not about her life at all. So I set about this journey, went to Congo in the late 90s, searching for her, searching to write this story that actually coincides with my own spiritual awakening and own spiritual development. But recently, probably about 5 years ago, you know, I said to myself, I've got to complete this. I've got to complete this. And about what, I don't remember now when precisely you set your announcement, but I wanted to return to Congo about 2 years ago and I couldn't. And I was very sad about that. And so this year, when I said, okay, I've got to finish this, I felt that I needed to put myself back in Africa. And that's what I said to myself. I wanted to come back into Africa. So one morning I just got up and I said, okay, I'm going to get in touch with people who are writers whom I know. And so I wanted to get in touch with Amayata Edu. So I got online, you know, checked her out. She's running this foundation. I looked at the foundation. I looked at the courses that they were offering. And I saw this, some of the courses were masterclass courses. Okay, so I set that down. I got in touch with this editor friend of mine here in the US and I said, look, I'm searching for a narrative voice for my work and I can't find it as yet. He said, okay, I'll get in touch with a few people. I'll get back to you. He got back to me and at the top of the list was Orchestra of Minorities at the top of the list. Went online again, check, and read almost everything there was online about Professor Chigozie. And from the search with Amate Ata Edu's foundation, I remembered Masterclass. I said, I'm going to see whether he's offering a Masterclass somewhere. And sure enough, I went online, put in his name, put Masterclass, and I was directed straight to Osiri. In like it was like 4 hours that took, where I saw the link, saw that he was offering this masterclass. I mean, I was just, I ran all over the house, which is precisely what I did when I got news that I had been chosen to be part of this. And I said, okay, that's it. That is it. So that was what brought me. I didn't know anything about the university. I was very happy to look at the courses. And actually, there are a couple of things, you know, after, you know, through this process that I'll probably get back in touch with you all about. But it was just, that's how it happened. I mean, that's how it happened. And I've since been, it's difficult for me to leave orchestra. Like, I'm just in it. I'm just in it. That's all I can say. I'm just in it. Yeah. So that's how that happened.
Wow, amazing. Amazing. Yeah. And by the way, you know that over 100 people applied for this masterclass.
Yeah.
But we only had 10 slots available, and you made it to the 10. Yeah. So how did you feel when you were selected? Tell us, how did you feel?
Well, the email came, I think it was nighttime. So what had happened was I had read very carefully Prof. Kalu saying that letter that was there that said, you know, you would find out within 2 weeks of the start of the class. And if you're not selected, we're not going to get in touch with you. I think something like that, right? If you're not selected. So that stayed in my mind. So I'm checking the dates. I put the dates, I put the prospective date that the class was supposed to have started. I put it in my calendar. And so I kept on checking. So closer to the week now, I said, okay, this is the week that they're going to get in touch or not get in touch. So that's in my calendar. So every day I'm looking. And this, I think it came on a Sunday night, and I was getting ready for bed. And I don't know, I try not to look at the internet just before sleep. I don't know what well, I know what made me open. So I opened info it said. And so the line, and then I opened it, and I just started to run all over the house. I mean, for like a good 10 minutes, I ran all over the house. And then he wanted things very quickly. I said, okay, let me just move to do that. It was just pure joy to have
Wow.
been chosen, to get the opportunity to just be in touch, just be connected, to do this work. I mean, I feel that this connection is about completing this work in a very profound way. So I'm thankful to you all. I'm thankful to Prof. Kalu for all the energy and the work. I'm thankful for the group that we formed. I'm thankful to Prof. Chigozie for his sheer brilliance. And it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity from the universe. Is how I see it and feel it, you know?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. If you don't mind me asking, and if you don't mind sharing with us, how old are you?
Oh, I'm 70.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
And you never stop learning. This
Oh,
is
no. I love to be in school and I love to teach, both, you know? So yeah, I'm 70.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you. I mean, this
sure.
is so inspirational. So I would ask you, Mr. Awuni, how did you feel when you got to, you got the email? How did you feel?
Well, there are times you are too happy to celebrate. So I just had to soak everything in. It was a dream come true because I have done journalism for 10 years. And I'm now looking to transition into the field which really brought me into journalism. That's writing, and I love fiction. But in all my life, I've not sat in a literature class. I read a lot, but I've also come to realize that there are talents and there are also things that are shaped by knowledge. So even if you have a talent, you may need that talent refined. So getting to understand what goes into writing, points of view, and beyond the things we studied, there were certain comments Prof. Chigozie made on the side that I found very, very useful and insightful. At least getting to know somebody high up there and what the industry of writing is headed for, and what they consider good and what they consider bad literature. I follow Booker Prize a lot, and to have a panelist of the Booker Prize telling you what to do, I think we couldn't have had a better person to learn from. And so words cannot fully describe how I felt and still feel about the opportunity to be able to connect. And there's one thing I failed to add, that there were 3 personalities growing up I said I wanted to meet: Achebe, Mandela, and Jesus Christ. So unfortunately, I didn't meet Achebe. I didn't meet Mandela. I hope not to miss Jesus. But after meeting Prof. Chigozie, I can say I don't miss Achebe too much.
Wow. Wow, amazing. I was supposed to ask you this question, but maybe I would lift that and ask Madam Jacqui this question. And the question is around what aspects of your writing do you find most challenging and most rewarding?
Yeah. So this writing is new for me, attempting to write. I don't even quite know the form. Sometimes I think it's a multi-genre piece of work. Sometimes I think it's a novel. I don't quite know the form. But I think above all, whatever form it takes, I'm searching to clarify voice. So this kind of writing is, of course, different than academic writing. I've done academic writing and published. But this is a real challenge. It's a challenge to find voice, to know where that voice comes from, to find that narrative voice that shapes the content of the work that is able to really know characters, and that's what fascinates me deeply about the Professor Chigozie's strategy, that use of the chi. So immediately, like I said, he just put it out of the ballpark, because by linking the main character to his chi, his guardian spirit, the most intimate of relationships that one could possibly have. It's the person who knows you inside out. It's the person who guides you, whose advice you don't like to take, or you fight against, or you absorb. It's such a nuanced and deep way to think about the world, right? So the metaphysical stakes in the book are just great. They're just great. To match, of course, the content of what has happened in Chinoso's life. So I feel that one of my challenges still is that search for that voice. How does one get to it? How does one unearth it? How does one make it work in the lives of people? So that's my major challenge. Yeah, I mean, there is a deep part of me that feels that the work is about ancestral love, the love for Kitsimba, the love for who she is. I never imagined her as a slave. Never imagined her as a slave. Even before going to Congo, I never imagined her as a slave. And I think that that's an important insight, to think that there is a level of self-possession that we have as human beings that stands us apart from some of the most oppressive structures in the society. So it's interesting, Manasseh, that you talk about Mandela, because I feel that that was the case with him too, that there was a degree of distance between who he was and that experience of apartheid. So I feel I want all of that to come out in the writing. And there's this wonderful primordial story, actually, about the opposition of the healer slave in Congo context that I'm hoping to be able to use. So I just have a lot to continue to learn from Professor Chigozie, and continue to learn from my own guiding spirits as I do this work. Yeah.
All right. For me, as you all talk, I cannot help but really admire your humility. Sometimes I think people misapply humility. I think there are times when we ought to just be confident and express ourselves and not try to diminish ourselves just so others can feel comfortable. I mean, there is that, but there's also true and genuine humility, which I see through and through in both of you. I mean, Manasseh, you are an accomplished journalist. I mean, your resume stands very tall, speaks for itself, but still you are able to bring yourself down, open up your vessel to learn. That to me is enriching, is inspiring, is fulfilling. I'm just wondering, how does that come about? And I think it's important we emphasize on that, because a lot of us need to open up ourselves and learn. I think that's one of the things we need to do as Africans. We are busy about trying to do so many things and trying to look like others, trying to look like the next Joe, right? We're going after material things so much, but we are not learning. We're not humbling ourselves and learning. To you, Madam Jacqui, similarly, I mean, you are a professor. You retired from University of Toronto. I mean, you are an accomplished person, but you didn't even mention that at all in your intro. You are an academic, yet you've again decided to come and learn from a younger person. That is so amazing and so beautiful, and that was, for me, that is what I've been learning from you all, how to humble myself even more. So do you mind, again, Manasseh, and then to you, Madam Jacqui, what is the importance of humility? How did you develop that trait? I think it's important. I don't know whether you can develop it or whether you were born with it, but how do you cultivate that? And what can you say to young people who are listening about having the love, sheer love for learning? Manasseh first, and then Madam Jacqui.
Okay, I often say that pride comes from ignorance. The more ignorant you are, the more proud, or the prouder you are, more likely to be. The more you learn, the more you come to the realization of how little you actually know. So I like reading. I've heard Obama wrote a book. I took it, read. I've read Mandela's books. I've read Martin Luther King Jr. And I've realized that people have accomplished so much. So what I may have accomplished is just a little of what others have done. That is one. And as a reader, I have been writing columns, and I have 3 books, nonfiction anyway. Voice of Conscience, Letters to My Future Wife, and also one political book, The Fourth John. It's about the presidency of the country, the Fourth Republic. We've had 4 presidents. The first 4 of them, we just got a 5th one. The first 4 were all Johns. So I did a title from the 4th John. But when I read books from others, I feel, well, I haven't even started writing at all. So the more you learn, the more you get to know how little you actually know. The knowledge is just an ocean. It's like an ocean. And maybe what I know is just like a spoonful. So I've got to be humble and learn. 2, I've also come to realize that when there's a story in the Bible, the story of Esther. And Esther became a queen, and that the cousin Mordecai wanted her to intervene for the people to survive. Esther gave a number of reasons why she couldn't intervene, including the fact that if she did without being invited to the king's courtyard, even though she was a queen, she could be killed. So Mordecai sent a word to her that, do not think that because you are in the king's palace, you alone of all the Jews will survive. But if you keep quiet in this critical moment, deliverance for the Jews will come from somewhere else, but you and your household will perish. And who knows, you may have been brought to this royal position for such a time as this. I have come to realize that beyond our talents, beyond our hard work, we are born into certain generations to fulfill certain promises. And so if by the grace of God, I have this opportunity to do a social media post and it will go viral, I have the opportunity to write articles and they become national discussions, do stories, and sometimes the entire media landscape is talking about it. I should be able to know that if I decide not to do it, God could easily raise other more intelligent journalists to do the same thing I'm doing. So sometimes I just see it as a form of grace. So if I'm able to do this, others are also able to do other great things. So I should be humble enough to give thanks to God and to the people who have supported me in all this journey. Because I cannot beat my chest and say, tomorrow by this time, I'll still be alive. No. So every day I have to be thankful and know that there are others doing great things. So there's absolutely no reason to be proud. If for nothing at all, my background should teach me to be humble. Because whenever I travel to Ketekrach, where I grew up, some of my colleagues with whom I grew up couldn't make it beyond junior high school. Some couldn't make it beyond senior secondary school. So I could have been part of them.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Then over to you, Madam Jacqui, and then I'll turn it back to Dr. Amarachi Amugo. But just to summarize what I just heard, it's for those who are listening, it's important to take your burden, take your load and make it heavy. It doesn't matter where you find yourself. You might be in a privileged position. You might be in the slums. Find your burden and do something for other people. That is what Manasseh has done here. Thank you so much for enriching our lives here, Manasseh. Madam Jacqui, please.
Yeah, so I very much like what you have said, Manasseh. And I think that there is a difference between humility and self-effacing. Self-effacing meaning, you know, you have that pride, but you try to cover it by behaving in another way. To me, humility has to do with being pressed, being ground down, being tried, being in touch actually with something that's larger than yourself. And your commitment to live that promise. So I firmly believe that there are promises that we made before birth. We made those promises. And that so much of our living sometimes has to do with forgetting those promises. So we have to come back into remembrance. And coming back into remembrance of those promises, oftentimes we don't have a curriculum for that, you know. There's no curriculum. I don't know about any course in any university that says, remember your promise. There are no such courses. So what does that mean? It means that we align ourselves with people with similar frames of reference for looking at the world. I remember when I first started my spiritual journey, there are two things that I decided. That one, I used to travel a lot, that I would never travel when we had ceremony, that I would never have my travel for the university, for my projects, conflict with ceremony. So once there was ceremony, that always came first. And the second thing is my madrina, my spiritual mother, one of them said to me one time, she said, you know, Jacqui, you have reached the top of your profession. I said, yes, madrina. And then she looked at me and said, okay, but you start at the bottom. Here in this space, you start at the bottom. And so that idea of having, and she said to me, don't come here with any books. Don't come here and tell me that you read this here and here and here. So at first I used to think that she didn't read until as I got closer to her and I went into her house, there were books everywhere. So what was the point? The point is that to learn about metaphysical things requires a different curriculum. It's a different curriculum. You have to apprentice yourself. You have to humble yourself. You have to continually tell yourself you do not know, and that what you know comes from elsewhere. So for me, the spiritual teachings that I've received have been enormously pivotal in pointing me to a path that's different than the academic path. And that's why I really just admired the tone that Professor Chigozie set in the class with so much grace, you know, to teach us a different model of relating. Like, don't come and just start to criticize somebody's work. So all of that guidance that he gave us, you know, there is compassion to be had here. There is recognizing that there are people around you. Recognizing that you give praise. You praise people. Never mind, later on, he's going to say to you, okay, this does not work, and I'll show you all the reasons that it doesn't work. But praise for what you have put on the page. Praise for having shown up. Praise for having done the work. So yeah. And I just need to say one other thing. You know, for the past 5 years, I've been living in Tobago, and going back to the land, living on the land, is a tremendous lesson. Because one of the things it's teaching you is, as human beings, we don't know anything about generosity. We think we do because we acquire things, but we don't know about the generosity of the universe, about, or remember that we put the seed in the ground and we may not water it, and it will still grow once the conditions are there. So all of those kinds of things, I think, really course through my life in a very, very fundamental way. Yeah.
That's great. I mean, speaking of Professor Chigozie Obioma and how he teaches, and I could tell he is so engaged. When he's there, he is there. And when a student or two was missing in the class, it broke his heart. He wanted everybody to be there in the class. He wanted to engage every single person. And I could just tell, oh man, he wanted to just be able to pour out so much and help as much as he could, because I wanted him to do more, to take more than 10 students. But he said no, because I want to make sure I can really contribute in a substantive manner to each person.
Yeah.
And in fact, could you believe he's still going over the stories that you all wrote and giving feedback and writing his letters? He's not done yet. So so he's so gracious, he's so humble, and that's why I love him. That's why I love working with him. Yeah. Madam Amarachi, please, over to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, there's a lot of lesson to be garnered from what you both have been saying. I mean, not just for the creative writing class, for life in itself. And I just want to thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, just a few things that I got from what Mr. Awuni, Manasseh, and Madam Jacqui said. The more you learn, the more you get to know about how little you know. I mean, you just said that, but there's a whole lot of wisdom packed in there. And if only as Africans, we can come to a point where we understand this and open up ourselves more to learning, then it will make a whole lot of difference. And you said something, you said knowledge is an ocean. And there's an adage in Igbo that refers to knowledge being a forest, you know, and every day is a gift. And if we can do that, I mean, we would have life in view. And Madam Jacqui said something, said humility is being pressed, being ground down, being in touch with something bigger, and a commitment to leave your promises, something so profound. So thank you so much for sharing. I want to bring to mind a question on the Q&A. Az is asking, he says, how do you write? How can we become better writers? How do you keep going in the face of writing liturgy? So I'd ask Manasseh and then Madam Jacqui, please, if you can chime in as well. Over to you, Manasseh.
Okay. I have always maintained that any good writer who is not a good reader must be a magician. And I don't believe in magic. So that is also an impossibility. I believe that to be able to write, you would need the content and also the language and perhaps the style and other mechanics that come with it. So I write mainly about happenings in my country. So some are current affairs, and in the books I sometimes research and then get a bit of history. So I first of all need to know what happened in 79, the revolution in 79, and it was caused by corruption. So if I'm writing about corruption and its effects on the development of my country, I'll need to read about some of the major incidents of corruption in the country and what happened. So that would give me the content, and also the language. I may have to get that through reading. And so to be able to put in the right sentences, the right words, the right descriptions, and also find a creative touch to it. Because these days, a lot of things crave for people's attention when they go online. So you are not only going to write to inform people, because every day, whatever you write, there's someone out there who knows about the subject more than you. So you have to find a creative way of presenting it so that even if they know the subject, they will still be entertained by your presentation. So I believe to be able to write, you need to work a lot on the content of whatever you want to write, and also with the language. And I am beginning to learn that even fiction, a lot of research goes into fiction. I was reading a book about a novel by a Nigerian writer, just the title has escaped me, but 3 or so months ago. And I saw something about a bombing parcel, a bomb parcel that was delivered to a journalist, Jiwa. Then I decided to, okay, I'm a journalist, so let me just look at this. Is it fiction or is reality? Then I went online to research and realized that at the time of the bombing, this journalist was with another journalist, Soyinka. And at the time I was reading that book, Soyinka he now publishes, I think, the African magazine based in London. He had actually contracted me to write an article for the cover edition, the death of President Rawlings, former President Rawlings. So I said, wow, this person I'm just working for at this particular moment is in the novel. So at the end of the day, I realized that a lot of research even goes into writing fiction. So to be able to write well, the language is important, but the writer should also make a conscious effort to research and read a lot about what he or she is writing about, because different perspectives would give you a good topic or a good content, even if you don't agree with what others have said about what you intend to write about. Knowing their perspective will, in a way, shape and make yours better.
Yeah, so yeah, I agree with that. I think that there's 3 areas. I mean, so one is content. What is it you want to do? I think the second has to do with questions of craft, really learning the craft of creative writing, because it is not, it is not like other kinds of writing. And I think the third is finding community. I think it's important to find a community of people who you can discuss your ideas with, who can assist you in this new journey. Well, for me, it's a relatively new journey. But I also think a lot of this kind of writing is a mysterious process. I think it's mysterious. I think it's mysterious, this this task of putting how much ever you read, how much ever you know, of digging deep inside of yourself and bringing something out on that page that you may not even know what it is, searching for some kind of unknown. So I think that part of it is a mysterious process, but the discipline will assist you, right? So when you read a lot of books about writing, you know, they tell you, find some kind of rhythm, no matter how you do it. Whatever your rhythm is, find it so that the muse will come, so that the muse will find you if it's 4 o'clock every morning or 5 or 6 or whatever time, in order to be able to have that open consciousness with that place where ideas reside inside yourself, that you could then have access to that.
Wow. Thank you so very much. I'm just carried away. I mean, 1 hour is just gone, and it doesn't seem. It just looks like we just started. And I want to thank you so very much, Mr. Manasseh Awuni, Azure Awuni, and Madam Jacqui Alexander, for your pearls of wisdom today. And maybe I don't know what our attendees have to say about today's session, but for me particularly, this has been the most phenomenal and inspiring time at this point in my life. And I say that with a lot of meaning, and only me understand that. So thank you so very much for sharing today. We would want to have you two back again. And again, that's still down to your schedule, because I know you both are very busy. Mr. Manasseh, would love to have you back just to talk more about journalism. And please do tell us what time, dates would work for you. We can liaise after now. And Madam Jacqui, if you can come back to have more conversations about spirituality, because I see that is something you really care about, and it would be lovely for you to share with us as well. Thank you so much for hosting and gracing this wonderful platform today. And thank you to all our attendees for joining in today. Ubuntu.
Thank you.
Ubuntu.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Booyala, booyala, mama, hey.